Sup guys, this is the second part of the three-part series where we discuss the entire history of the 801st. Right now we're, me and Pango in a match against the 41st, Geetsy's 41st right now. So we should probably start taking notes for our future clan battle, which is coming up. Let's get right into it. So in the last video we talked about how the 42nd came and went. I'll briefly touch on how they went because I was talking about how I was talking it from the 42nd perspective in the last video. Now I'll talk it from the 801st perspective. So how it went was they became Milsim. They banned me, and I was like, okay. I had my base already because of the 42nd Accords, which I discussed in the last video. Now we needed to build. Now the base server I mentioned was created way back in September. The PFP was like the meme about, I don't know, I think it was the Millennial Falcon meme. Han Solo and the crew in the Millennium Falcon, but they were dressed as millennials. I think that was the PFP. So we basically had a good amount of people actually left. Now there were some people I was sad that didn't leave, like G-Marie, Floopa, Sketch, Dragon Eye, people who I recruited, that I got close with, but they didn't want to join because Floopa was only gonna join if Sketch and Dragon Eye joined, and since neither of them joined, he didn't join because he was closest with them because they were like the three best non-commanders in the group. So it was around, our starting number was about 50, I have to say. Based off of, well, 50 including people who didn't even have Battlefront 2 who joined the server because I posted the link somewhere before. Like, I cleaned it up. So we had about a good 20 active members. Like, active, I don't mean they joined every raid, but they, like, were either active in the chat or active, like, they joined, like, a few raids here and there. My first recruit in the 801st was not the first person I messaged like Calamity, but he was the first person who responded was Golden Knife or Lancer. He was the life of the party chat.
He was the...
And there was someone else who came later in the Golden Age, who I'll get to, who him and Lancer, whoo, they were so fun. It was good vibes in this party chat. There wasn't really that much negativity going on. No one was complaining. We were just having fun playing the game. And obviously it didn't last, but it was a blast. We were the Golden Age, and then it became the Golden Age. Golden Age of the 801st. The server was like formed back in October, like I mentioned, but not like finished, and like everything was good. But we launched on the 18th of March, 2021. That is when we started. The Golden Age began right after that because we became active. Other notable people. Well, even still, Jakey and Klenko weren't that annoying during this part, either. I mean, later on they became, but back in March and April, oh, they were recruiting. They were being funny in chat, like a good type of funny.
And I did not want to end it all when they were in the party.
Oh, I forgot about Cheeto. Cheeto was a guy in the 42nd. Who joined?
Oh, Cheeto.
Yeah, he plays a pretty big part too later down the line. But he was active. Who else? We had Reaper Reaper joined a bit here and there, but he was there. Dell was really active during this time. Wampa and Wolfie were recruited during this time. They were also the life of the party chat. Gus was also active during this time. Like, almost everyone but Operatic and Leviathan, like and Anarchy technically, but he retired though because he was in the military.
A lot of people from the 801st have gone to the military eventually.
Yeah. Two notable ones being him and Uncharted Lamb, which is the other guy I was talking about with Lancer, which he also joined like later in the Golden Age, like closer to its end. But him, Wolfie, Lancer, me, Peng, it was the life. Min was also here. Oh, then, oh my god, how could we forget the real life of the party? Happy Hour.
Oh, Happy Hour.
Happy Hour was the happy hour.
Although, I think he came midway into Me versus Red Gang. At least he became active.
He became really... He was... And the funny thing about his joining was that I accidentally invited him. I knew he was in another Battlefront 2 clan. So I just didn't mean to, and he joined because I accidentally invited him. Because we were in like another thing because he left his milsim around the same time we did, basically with the same premise. That they were being stupid and milsimy, and we wanted free, and we had like created a small group. We created the Free Senate, which died. Which also became the United Be of Two Milsims, but that's another story, which I'll get into later down the line. So, him, Min, it was so fun. And like everyone was active too. It wasn't like they just joined once every, and this was every Saturday night. We had around, we didn't have 20 every Saturday, but we had 16 plus every Saturday.
We would overflow at least once a month.
Yeah, we would definitely, it was at least once a month, and people just kept coming. There's other people like who came and then left for like either they were just inactive or they became inactive eventually, and they just didn't tell me why they left. There's because there were a lot of those people, and they like joined like a few raids, but then left. I don't know what happened to them. They just decided to leave one day, and I can't stop them. So like and it wasn't like we were just having fun, but we only won like half. We were winning every match, 100-0. We had a joke where if we got 1 point, we would say, "Oh, we lost the raid. We got 1 point." Oh no, they got 1 point. Now,
yeah, there would be a chat. There would be a chat that would say last time we lost, and sometimes it would get to like a month. Where we didn't lose.
3 months, and we only lost really. Like this is when we also started facing like other BF2 groups in game a lot. Like we faced the 104th twice in the 42nd, and we beat them both times though. That I know of, because they could have been on the droids, and I just didn't recognize their names. Oh, then there was Donde Sus, who also joined during this age. Who was actually in the 42nd, but like he just got in like the last few days I recruited. He replied back. And the joke about Donde Sus was he was always watching a movie. Sometimes you could understand what the movie was, sometimes you couldn't. He never talked. But we just knew, like, he talked sometimes, but mostly it was his movie.
Really high.
Yeah. Like Happy Hour and Wampa's joke with the squats, hiding at the back of the map after we were just destroying. We also had a guy named Fizz, who was part of us, who was technically the new Flooper. He was really good at the game.
I vaguely remember Fizz.
He just, I think he, like a lot of people, just stopped playing the game. I think that's what most people left for. They just stopped playing Battlefront, and they went to other games.
Well, it was kind of like a burnout sort of thing.
Yeah, because, again, like, nothing good ever lasts forever, and we were playing a lot, like, every Saturday. Which, I mean, yeah, but, like, you want to do other stuff your Saturday night. Then play Battlefront 2. Oh, yeah, that joke. The founders of the Sussy 5, Jakey Soccer, Uncharted Lamb, Circlanker 14, and Golden Knife. They were the founders of the term, who coined the term Sussy 5, which is the S5 of the officer class. Lancer hated us calling that, So now we just made it a joke where we would always call it the Sussy Five. And sadly, Lancer's left. Spoiler alert. He left for, I think he pursued other things in life because he's busy. A lot of people just get busy too in life, and so they just can't play video games anymore. Because he was like in his young 20s. Ansar Lam went into the military. So like a lot of those people just departed. Happy Hour and Min, like, had lives.
Yeah.
So they had, like, Min had to pursue her job. Yeah, so a lot of them ended up leaving or becoming inactive. Like Wolfie, I can't say why he became inactive, but I understand why he became inactive, and he tries to join. So basically, we started to fall apart, and this is when some controversy started to pop up to the next phase. Let me just make sure that there's nothing in between. Nope. So now in June, conflict started to arise between Peng and Red Gang. It didn't really start. So I also created this thing called the Camino Council, which was one of the stipulations of my reforms for the 42nd, which in hindsight was a terrible idea, and I understood why.
It was.
Didn't implement, but I'm glad we tried it out though, because now we know it doesn't work. It was basically those elected members, like Lieutenant or higher, that make the rules of the server. However, this means that political parties were made, essentially.
And little groups.
Little groups formed, and what I didn't want happening. What's this guy doing?
I formed a group, but I kind of had to in order to do something that we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah, well. So, the whole point of it was so that we can, like, so the one leader doesn't have all the power. Now I know that that is the better option. At least in terms of rule making. As long as it's a good leader. That is. If it's not a good leader, then uh-oh. Again, you need to have the people who want change. That's why you can make the better things happen. But you also need to know when to not go overboard with change. And that is what we did. We went overboard with change with the council, and some funny things happened. From roughly around July 1st to July 28th was known as Peng v Red Gang, or Peng and others v Red Gang, when the server split into...
It was mostly me, though, versus everyone.
Yeah, well, you had a few allies. So the original council was me, because I could run too, because I made everything, so I thought I had the right to run, and now I realize that I do everything, so I have 100%, well, not 100%, but mostly say of what happens, because I know I'm not gonna abuse my power anymore, or at least I try not to. Alright, so I'll let Peng take care of the story mainly, and then I'll pitch in when I can.
So, I can't remember the first time, but one of them said the funny word. Either they said it or put it in chat, and I didn't exactly have a good time with that. So I think I talked to you about it, and you said bring it up in the council because you didn't want to do anything about it yourself.
Yeah, which is bad.
So I brought it up in the council to get Jakey demoted, and I think it worked. I think he did get demoted.
He was never... I think, actually, no, he was promoted to battalion at that time, I think.
I think he was demoted.
I think he was,
in that moment. So then, he decides to leave, because he could see that, like, I'm kind of not gonna let him say this, hate speech. And I forget how long it takes, but eventually Jakey comes back, and he asks Kali, here's a bright idea, he asks Kali to make a vote in the 801st announcements to demote me for ruining his mental health. Kylie, you wanna pitch in
Alright,
here
well,
a little bit?
that was the worst decision I've ever made. 1, in the 801st. 2, it was completely out of context. 3, while it was out of context, there was little wiggle room in there with some of the things Peng did say to Jakey. However, it did not constitute any of that.
Especially since what I said to him, I'm pretty sure was outside of the 801st.
Yeah, it was.
But basically,
DMs.
Kylie sets up that vote, and because no context was given for the thing, people obviously voted, because I probably would have too if I wasn't given context.
Yeah.
So, I get demoted. And I think I'm only demoted for like a week, to be honest.
Yeah, you are. Because I realized it was so dumb.
No, it's not that. It's because, I think I either did it before or after the council elections. Did I do it before?
I think you did it after. Because
so
you
the
were
council
elected as a
yeah.
council member.
So, we get this whole... I get the council election over with, and I create... Well, right before the council election happens, I create this group called the Council's Guild. It consisted of Dell's brother, and...
Mr. Heater. He was
Gus.
another one who joined raids and was active.
And Gus.
And yes.
No, yes, it was Gus.
Yes. And no.
So then, I talk to them, and they all agree that this is unfair, and they're also all on the council. And since it's a 4v3, if they vote on something, I'm automatically good. So then, we set up a whole elaborate scheme. Dell writes up a little act, or an argument, and then I get back in literally like 5 minutes. Like, it's a 5-minute process. So then I'm back in power. And I forget what happens to Jakey after that. Do you remember?
Jakey doesn't get, like, kicked or demoted, at least for the most part. I think it just reverts back to what it was. Like, you both were...
Yeah.
Battalion commander. Or something.
And I think...
Because you were battalion commander at this time, because this is when the race for regimental commander was happening.
So yeah, about that, I got demoted, and I still won the commander race. Just to
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about the commander race a bit, Kyle.
Oh yeah, so we needed a new regimental commander, because the one...
Senior command. Or, no, yeah, no senior.
Oh, was it senior?
Yeah, remember? Because I beat Cheeto to senior. This is right before the event.
The event, which we'll get to in a second. No, you did. You were the regimental of strike. It was senior. He was the regimental of Eagle. You were the regimental of strike. You both were competing for the senior commander spot because someone had just left. I think it was Knight. Because Knight went inactive. Well, he played more with Red Gang, but he wasn't like them.
So, the commander race goes on. And at first Cheeto was beating me, but after me dealing with some Wi-Fi issues and some demotions, I eventually win. Now, the day that I win, there's a raid. And that night, a little thing happens during the raid. People started making fun of Cheeto a little bit.
Ish. There was a joke with even Red Gang made it. I don't think it was because of that, but it was called Cheeto hacks. It was being the bottom of the scoreboard, basically. Cheeto hacks was he got like top of the scoreboard one game, but then got the bottom of the scoreboard of the other. So Clanker said it's just Cheeto hacks. He can hack if he wants to be the top or the bottom of the scoreboard.
The day he lost, the senior commander and I won, he started doing really bad.
Yeah. Because he was trying, too. You just came back.
Yeah.
And did more stuff.
So,
Because you recruited
that
more.
that night, after the raid, I go to bed. And, Kyle, you can tell me
So, around 3 a.m. Because for them, most of them lived in California. Well, not California. They lived on the West Coast, so for most of them, it was...
12.
Yeah, it was 12. West Coast. They pulled a funny practical joke. Well, they basically destroyed the entire server. Kicked almost all of the people and stopped only because they got bored.
They nuked us.
They nuked us hard. It's like Hiroshima on crack.
Yeah.
They destroyed everything. They deleted so many channels. They kicked people. At least they kicked people and did not ban people. If they banned people, I'd have to sit there and unban everyone. So it could have been worse because they didn't get to everyone. Could have been a lot.
Well, they couldn't get to higher ups. They couldn't get to anyone higher than Cheeto.
Yeah, I think they just did anyone because Cheeto was a regimental, so he got battalion down. And now this is known as Retribution Day. That was July 20. And what's funny is this happened. That was July 29th. This happened almost one day after I first got messaged to join the 42nd. So a whole year has gone by for timeline purposes.
So I wake up, open up my phone. I see the 801st. It was honestly pretty upsetting because like I just worked so hard for everything.
Yeah.
And then like we were at our peak. And then
at that point we weren't at our peak because activity started to decline a little bit. Because most of the chats were just you arguing with them. So it lost its vibes.
I guess. But I had to.
Oh yeah. So then from July 30th to September 30th was reconstruction. We were still around the same activity levels.
We had to do an execution. The person we executed was Cheeto because Cheeto allowed them in and allowed them to ruin us, so we executed him in quite a rude fashion.
Yeah, it was not another bad part. See, it's good thing we did this in hindsight because we learned what not to do.
Yeah.
We basically put him in. Because I kicked all of them. Because Nubby Man 12 was also involved, someone who I mentioned before. Basically everyone in Red Gang but Knight. Knight wasn't on during the time.
Knight probably helped them in some way.
He didn't help them. Well, I think he just knew it was going to happen. But he just found out it was going to happen. So he really couldn't do much about it. And he just didn't want to go up against the entirety of them and say don't do it. I don't think he helped them. I think he just knew it was going to happen.
So we put everyone in a chat with Cheeto.
And the gas chamber.
Basically let everyone say exactly what they wanted to him.
Yeah, it was not pretty. And then people continued then in DMs, which was also not warranted.
Yeah, that was
mainly Peng.
What? Well, actually, yeah. Yeah.
You continued. You weren't the only one though. Other people continued.
For a couple days.
Yeah. And there was this other guy named Ollie Gamer,
who I executed without permission.
Yeah. Who was like part of them, but like more with us. So I don't even know what he does anymore. He doesn't play with them. So reconstruction was rebuilding everything that we built already.
It's around reconstruction time that I stopped being active.
Yeah, it was not. It was after reconstruction.
It was it was right around it.
Well, no, reconstruction was from July 30th to September 30th. I think you left me be in September, so it was at the end of it.
Well, I officially left in like September, but I stopped really.
Well, you stopped playing, but
Yeah.
so it then then began the first era of inactivity, which we'll get into the next video.